Again, I'm Brock Wilson from K-12 Solutions Group. I don't mean to correct Ms. Sherry, but I'm the COO of K-12 Solutions Group, not Infinite Campus. A little bit about the company's K-12 Solutions Group is the local channel partner for Infinite Campus. Infinite Campus is the national company based in Blaine, Minnesota. K-12 Solutions Group is a Georgia company based in the big town of Commerce. For those of you who frequent either the Atlanta Dragway or the outlet malls over there, we are right there in that area. So I'm born and raised here in Georgia. Hopefully you can tell that I don't have the Minnesota accent, but as we continue through the presentation today, I'll show you a little bit about Infinite Campus. Our idea for tonight is truly 30,000 foot overview. I mean, we're going to fly over to show you what we can do, explain the differences, understanding you guys are currently on Power School. Power School and Infinite Campus are the two biggest systems in the state of Georgia. Of the 181 public school systems in Georgia, Infinite Campus, as of July of this year, will have 103 of them on Infinite Campus here in Georgia. 1.65 million students in the state. We will be over 1 million students here in Georgia by this summer. Our smallest customer, 150 students-ish, Heritage Prep, one of the charter schools down in East Point. Our largest customer here in the state is DeKalb County, pushing 100,000 kids. You guys sit right in what we call our sweet spot. 3,500 to 5,000 kids is the vast majority of our districts across the state. Again, we're in much smaller and much larger Infinite Campus scales to all of the above. Things about Infinite Campus: completely web-based and integrated system. Everything that I'm going to be showing you today is built into the base product. We call it a living product because monthly there are enhancements that are added to it. As Dr. Colvin was leaving there, continuing to talk about TEKS and SLOs, we've been working with DOE for years now and have the TEKS and SLOs process built into campus. So your teachers can actually assess the pre and post assessments for those student learner objectives in campus. We do the necessary reporting to DOE for the calculation of the TEKS. Obviously the leak system is on top of all of that, but all the TEKS and SLO reporting we do from within campus. Everything from the measurement, the growth statistics for the meets and exceeds. As you guys continue more into SLOs, that terminology will make sense of what the meets goals and exceeds goals for those kids are. Infinite Campus, again, completely web-based and integrated. We have everything from the administrative components where we do state reporting. Obviously, all of your money here is driven from state reporting. Infinite Campus obviously has a strong presence in the state of Georgia and interest in the state, thereby having our local office in Commerce. Everything that Georgia requires from state reporting, be it GTID, be it student record, FTE, the new guide system that's been released, you name it, all of that stuff, CCRPI, as you referenced, all of that type of reporting we send into DOE, and we handle all of that directly out of our Georgia office so that we are directly privy and communicate with DOE. I apologize, I don't have the ability to just run a clicker, so I am going to sit through this. I'll log you, sir. Yeah, I got to type on this one. You run the clicker. So what I'm going to show you today is just a quick overview of the admin system. Then I'll log in as a teacher, show you a quick overview. Then we'll get into our parent portal and talk about the direct communication to and from the parent without any dual entry from the teacher perspective. So here, let's just log in as an admin real quick. When we log into the system, everything, again, driven via years. If I had access to prior years, I could roll back and look at any graduate's information. I have access to all the schools in the system. Down the left-hand side, we have access to all the different modules. Now you're going to see here, remember I said everything completely integrated. One key to Infinite Campus is everything that does exist. We have a full special ed IEP writer. So you guys are probably using a disparate third-party system now. You could pull that into campus and do IEP writing direct from within campus. We have a health system built in. We can keep track of immunizations, health office visits, you name it. All of the instructional tools from a teacher perspective, down to a grade book, attendance roster. We do all the attendance reporting. A teacher can do class newsletters and post on portal. Again, that one-on-one communication with parents. I understand that you guys have a SACS review coming up. We do have a survey tool built into Infinite Campus, so if you needed to survey any population of users, you have the ability to do that from here. Free reduced applications, obviously it's a big part of your August, September with the October verification reports necessary. You can determine a student's free reduced eligibility direct from the base product of campus by processing either the online applications where they can go through portal and complete them, or paper applications and complete them through there. As we continue through the system here, if I click on Student Info General, type in any piece of the last, any piece of the first names, or I can do an advanced search and show me any student that I'm looking for based on any state reported criteria, or a saved filter. Maybe I'm going to save a filter of 11th grade football players. We could easily search by that same group of kids every time. As I pick a student, what are the projectors? That's a big time. As I pick a student down here on the bottom, down here on the bottom we see the student's photo, all the pertinent information about the child, their household information, Google Maps integrated in. Social worker needs to drive out to a household, we can do that direct from here. As we continue down, we see the household structure, all the contact information for the family directly listed here. We can also do non-household relationships. Any of these individuals can have direct portal access, messenger access, you name it. Campus does have a built-in email messenger. As an add-on product, another piece that we have is an emergency communication piece that would allow you to do inclement weather notices, any type of emergency communication that you might need. Again, email messenger is built into the base product. The phone messenger is an add-on piece. Let's see if I can't get the interface a little cleaner for us here. That does include text messaging capability if you wanted it to. Now the next tab over, for state reporting purposes, we can keep track of every school the student's been enrolled in, what year, what grade, start date, end date. If they're one of the frequent flyers that bounces between, say, Pickens and Gilmer, we can keep track of all that information here, easily visible. If we look at all the state reporting info, everything that Ms. Sherry would need for state reporting purposes here on one heads-up display, so we're not having to hunt and peck and look for everything that we need and how money's driven. Again, CCRPI elements down to the CCAE indicators, CTI, SST, you name it, everything that we need for that is directly driven from this enrollment. Student schedule. The student schedule is shown here on a heads-up display. In that lively conversation we had November 1st, there are many different scheduling scenarios throughout your district, all of which we can accommodate in Infinite Campus, be it an AB rotation, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, semester scheduling, you name it, all of those can be accommodated here.
Well, you're talking about that, Rod. Wasn't it the middle school that is not able to handle their schedule
because they
on
do,
Power School?
Yeah, they do rotating terms. On term one, math might be first period, but term two, it might be second period to give the student an opportunity throughout the year to have each of the academic subjects at a different time of the day.
Can you transfer records electronically with this system?
From Infinite Campus Districts to Infinite Campus Districts, yes. So if you have a student coming to you from, say, Forsyth, Hall, Fannin, Murray, Catoosa, lots of your neighboring districts that are on campus, we have what we call the Records Exchange built in. The Records Exchange, National Records Exchange, will allow you to electronically request a student's record from the withdrawing district. If the withdrawing district releases it to you, the components that they release can either be directly loaded into campus, or it can come in as a PDF document instead of having to send a fax and hoping you can read the fax. It can all come across electronically.
We just invested in a software called Destiny. Does it play well with Destiny?
It interfaces with Destiny. We have dealt with Destiny in lots of districts. Destiny is not something that you can do. The media components of Destiny is not something that Infinite Campus has. So it is one of the third-party systems that is a standard interface. Others would include transportation systems and food service systems if you guys were using, WinStaff or Lunchbox or whatever you happen to use. But yes, Destiny we're ever too familiar with. Other things here, just to show you that Infinite Campus is truly fully integrated. Parent calls fussing at an administrator about how a kid's doing in a certain class. We can pull up that teacher's grade book from the last time they clicked save and see down to the daily grade detail, everything going on in the classroom in the exact same view that the parent's looking at, so there's never a question, or we don't have to request from a teacher, hey, I need to see a copy of your grade book. We can get to it immediately. Other things, attendance. Attendance is a biggie. Obviously, everything is driven from attendance. We have tracking down to the day level per period. If somebody calls in, has the flu, the attendance clerk can enter that. We then notify the teacher that the student is absent rather than asking the teacher to let us know whether or not they showed up to class. This shows us a breakdown by term, by period, as well as by course. So if a kid's cutting a given course, it would be visually identifiable, easily noticeable here on this screen. We also have full toddler reporting, so for the teenage driving, where we've got to send in the reports for those kids that have been absent 10 or more unexcused absences. We do that reporting direct from campus. And we also do attendance letters. So you guys set up 3, 5, 8, 10, whatever day increment letters you set up. We have the ability to produce those directly from campus without your folks having to remember to use a mail merge in Word or break out a typewriter or anything like that. We can do that directly from campus.
Ron, can you talk a little bit about some of the problems that districts are having with attendance? I know that.
Well, one of them would be period attendance to daily attendance translation.
That's right, period by period.
Right, so in Infinite Campus, we are a true minutes-based attendance system. So if a kid comes in at 9:30 in the morning and checks out at 1:30 in the afternoon, based on either state or local attendance policies, are they deemed present for the day? Have they attended more than one half the instructional minutes of the day? Rather than going and say, well, they missed 3 periods, we go in and say they checked in at 9:27 and out at 1:43. Yes, they've got 181 instructional minutes, so they're present for the day. So down to the period, down to the minute level that Dr. Perry's referencing, Infinite Campus has full capability for that. And we then translate that to the daily attendance, which DOE requires for all reporting purposes, and which is normally required for things like TIDRA and local attendance letters. So all of that translation.
Some people are having to go through multi-steps to be able to get to that point.
Yes. In Infinite Campus, again, attendance is a biggie. If the kid's not in the seat for seat time, doesn't do a lot of good. So attendance is one of the key components that we focus a lot on, making sure that we track it accurately.
So will it accumulate the days, like say for instance you have 10 days absent, but some of those days are clearly marked for the flu because
Sure.
that you get sent home early from school one day and the nurse knows that? I mean, is there a way to document why they were absent so that we don't send these letters that are?
Sure. So on each attendance day, these are set up by the district. A01, A02 may not mean anything to you. It could be UEX, tardy unexcused, you name it. These are local codes, but you can go through and classify it however you would like, and then place whatever comment that you would like over here. Attending funeral. Now when the teacher goes to open his or her grade book for that given day, we're letting them know that this is coded as an excused absence because they're attending a funeral due to a death in the family. So we, again, can control that, and based on these different excuse types, we can see whether it was tardy, absent, excused, unexcused, or exempt. For instance, an exempt might be school activity, gone to the state FFA convention, gone to the state livestock show, whatever it happens to be.
The one thing I like is that you see the same thing the teacher sees and the same thing the administrator sees. Our school isn't that way. Everybody sees different screens.
What about, is there a way, like for the parent portal, like on, right now with Power School, you can set up to receive emails? Well, I don't know what's wrong with it, but I get 50 emails for my 2 children every Monday morning, instead of receiving one email that tells me everything that they're doing in every class, all combined.
Sure. You as a district control the emails. So in our messenger system here at the left, we have the ability for you to set up what type of messages. It could be failing grades, it can be missing assignments, or it can just be general messages of, hey, portal's been updated. The other thing that Infinite Campus has is a mobile app. So I see all the iPads laid up front and iPhones. You can go to the App Store, both the iTunes App Store and the Android App Store, and download what we call the Campus Portal. Once the Campus Portal is downloaded, it allows for push notifications, so that if an attendance transaction is entered, or if a teacher enters a grade, not only is it an email that comes out once a week, but it's an immediate push message notification down to the phone that says, Mrs. Smith has entered a grade for X, or, Carly has been marked absent. So it is real-time communication as opposed to staged.
Still Wi-Fi, but Katie's better than Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, it would, and they would have to have the app on their phone to do that. The other thing, the emails are completely capable, and then portal is real-time as well, so the parents can access portal anytime they so desire. Infinite Campus can be run fully. There are only 2 modules of the product that can't be run from an iPad. So anywhere anybody has access to a device, and that includes a smartphone, the Safari browser on the iOS devices, be it iPad, be it iPhone, you can run the full product, with the exception of doing mass scheduling, which happens once a year by a very select group of people.
Yeah.
And designing food service terminal layouts are the only 2 things you cannot do direct from a device.
So in a remote location, if we have a bus accident, we can access the portal and know who's doing all that, and they're going to release the proper.
Not only that, but and I'll get to your question in a minute, I apologize. But in that situation where you had a bus accident, if you were to utilize our emergency communication piece, which is mentioned in the newsletter, you could quickly go through and query the list of kids on that bus and send an email or a telephone call or a text message to every parent of every child on that bus without you having to go pull records, who's on the bus, do that. So again, lots of integrability there, if that's a word. If not, give me credit for it in the dictionary next time. But lots of integration allowing those different components to be utilized if campus is fully utilized. Yes, sir, you had a question?
Go to the behavior tab.
Okay. Campus has a full behavior tracking. You'll notice that we don't call it discipline, but rather behavior. We allow the tracking of both negative discipline and positive behavior. So at any level, if you chose to give students awards for positive behavior, you have the ability to track it just like you would punishment for negative behavior. We do have a behavior referral tool from the teacher perspective. I don't know if you guys currently use like triplicate forms where teachers would fill out and send to an administrator. But you can enter the behavior referrals, which route directly to an administrator. The administrator would then get an email or on his or her login screen, pop up and tell you that there's a behavior incident needing a resolution. So we could then go through, flow to that direct behavior event and resolve that event as necessary. I'm going to resolve this one. You can then choose whether or not you want that behavior information to show on portal for parents. If you have that fight in the lunchroom where there are 3 or 4 students involved, currently in the system you use, you'd have to go through and type in all the information 4 times as it pertains to each student. In campus, we go through and enter the event information 1 time, and then down, we have the ability to then add resolutions per child, or we have the ability to associate multiple students to an event so that we can keep track of, okay, who's the instigator here, who's the witness. If a child's been a witness for the last 4 fights, maybe it's time to determine if they might not be instigating that fight.
But that's not up for public view.
It is not up for public view, that's for admin view. Now, other things that we have, obviously continuation of services, the old cessation of services for DOE reporting purposes, the new fields for discipline process. If you assign a student to out-of-school suspension, in-school suspension, or an expulsion code, DOE is now requiring that we report the discipline process. We have that in there now. Assessment, as Dr. Colvin was saying earlier, for those tested subjects, we can track all of those test scores in here so that from within the campus, you can see all of the CRCTs, EOCTs, old Georgia High School graduation test, Georgia High School writing test, you name it, down to local benchmarks. So if you do local benchmarks, which include the slow pre and post assessments, you have the ability to track those and keep track of the student's progress toward graduation with each of those as well.
Now, that will all automatically from the state, that will.
You get the files from the state.
You have to do it.
Somebody here has to do it, but there's
Right.
what we call a score import wizard,
But
so
I-
nobody is
But I'm
physically
saying it can
keying
be
it.
imported, you don't have to key it.
Right, we actually discourage you from keying it because that's where data integrity seems to go down. A slip of the keypad happens every now and then, so we do have that direct import feature to allow you to import those and definitely encourage that. There it is, called Score Import Wizard.
Go back up.
Yes, sir.
We hit the special ed type.
So if we get into special ed, we have numerous things. One, team member reporting. Obviously, we're going to have who the caseload manager is, any of the read-only or view-only members. There's a button here that says fetch classroom teachers that can also be set to do it automatically. So that instead of your special ed folks having to manually build the special ed team, right now they probably write an IEP and make 6 copies and hand one to each teacher. In Infinite Campus, what we do is we build the team electronically. Once the member is at least a read-only access and the IEP is written, so once the IEP is written here on the Documents tab, we can go through and lock the IEP. Now from the teacher's roster, which we'll get to in a bit, I have the ability to see this IEP direct. I can pull up the PDF copy. If there's been a recent amendment, I can see that. So you're going to save a lot of paper by not having to print X number of copies every time they do an IEP amendment. I mean, if you take the national statistic of 10% of your students, you guys have got roughly 450 special ed kids, plus or minus. So you take that times X number of sheets of paper and just, you're into cost savings already by not having to print each IEP just to distribute to the teachers. They can view it electronically.
Yes.
So does this replace the SIMS tracking system as well? So this system is replacing Power School and SIMS?
It can.
And the lunchroom too.
You have a,
And
And alert, the call,
what about a
automatic.
504 plan?
Yeah, so under 504, we can do PLP, under PLP, personalized learner plans. You can go through and create whatever types of forms you want. This could be RTI forms, it could be 504 forms, it could be, you name it. I mean, here's a list. We've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, parent notice, medical documentation, maybe a manifestation determination form. It could be vision screening referral. You name it. These can all be customized by the district. So bear in mind, we give you the skeleton system that includes everything that you need, but you can expand it to whatever it is that you want. Same thing would be true under health. So if you had like what's a good example? Head lice found form, or,
That's a good one.
I mean, it happens, doesn't it?
Scabies.
We'll go with head lice.
Ron, could you talk about subs that come in, and a teacher's absent, and subs that come in? What kind of,
Normally a substitute,
modifications with that?
well, it depends on if they're a long-term sub or a short-term sub. If they're a short-term sub, then normally what we would do is go under attendance. We have this report called a sub attendance roster, which basically we can run this report for whatever teacher called in and said they're absent for whatever period. And it gives us a report that we can now give to the sub that says, look, here are the kids that are going to be in the classes you're teaching today. Take attendance, sign it, send it back to me. Then the attendance clerk can handle attendance rather than having the sub log in as the teacher.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
But in a long-term sub situation, we can assign them as a secondary user of the classroom and grant them access to the teacher grade book without having to do a lot of rescheduling at all. Then when the teacher comes back from maternity leave, medical leave, whatever they've been out for, you can replace the teacher of record so the state reporting and everything that you guys do for, again, funding purposes is not impacted by that at all.
But on a short-term sub, can you generate this report that would show kids in that class that had a 504 plan or other type of special need that needed to be addressed on a daily basis?
All right, we can print class rosters. So if we go print class rosters, those flags that we have set for the kids show on there. So do we have a direct report for subs that show every flag that you're referring to? Probably not. But either through our ad hoc reporting tool, you can build a custom report, or using the section roster, you can go print one for whatever period for whatever teacher, and we have the ability to show all these different things. What do you want to show? This one right here, show flags, show IEP, show PLP. If you choose those, they're immediately accessible to the substitute, notifying them that these items exist. Now, it's not going to print a copy of every kid's IEP with the class roster, but it's going to notify the sub that one does exist.
Or the teacher may have some special
The teacher should
instructions.
have that.
Yeah.
And they're fine.
Unless they're a self-contained class, there's normally going to be a co-lab teacher
Six flags.
or a parapro. Okay. Again, lots of stuff in Infinite Campus. You know, you asked about PLP and stuff earlier. We can extend it further. Notice across the top here we see a gifted flag, graduation, residency. When I mouse over residency, it says out of district. If you have restricted pickup, release only to mother. So any of those court orders, the dockets that you might have in place that everybody needs to know about this kid, but maybe they don't need to know the detail, you can control food allergies. This kid's got a peanut allergy, carries an EpiPen. If they were to go on a field trip, the teacher needs to know that. So if they print a class roster, if they pull it up from the mobile device like you mentioned, it's the first thing they see about the kid. This is the important information about the child that we need to know.
Could I see the count for the screen?
Counseling, sure. Under counseling, we have the ability, a lot like special ed, to build the counseling team. What this allows us to do is to assign a counselor to the students so they know which counseling staff the student goes to. Then when we go do an advanced search from the counselor perspective, there's an option that says, show me only the students that I'm counseling. So if we're doing the counselors go through the different reports they have to do about the visits with students, visits with classrooms, things like that. This gives them the ability to filter through that list of kids that they're assigned, showing which items they need. Now, under counseling documents, then again, these are controlled documents. You have the ability to either upload a document or you can produce new documents, which you as a district have defined. Health issue referral, DFACS referral, social work referral are examples that we've got in here. We also have the contact log, which will allow the person to keep track of the contacts made with the family, how they were contacted, what the text was. So at the end of the month, when the counselor has to turn in their report, they can run a quick list of all the contacts they've made throughout whatever date range they're looking for.
That's great for student services.
Okay. Other things real quick. Context-sensitive help. Help is built directly into the system. We have what we call our campus community. Via campus community, folks can do self-paced learning. So if there are new modules that come out, or if they need some remediation and refreshers on exactly how a module works, they have the ability to link directly to self-paced learning guides. The self-paced learning guide is a video of the module they're using, also with a hands-on click-through. And we talked about the professional learning objectives earlier. If you guys decided to do any professional development, professional learning, they can go through and complete what we call the Infinite Campus Content Standards so that we can assess their proficiency on use of the system to determine whether or not they need to come in for additional training. We can actually keep track of what modules they've gone through and how they've done on each.
Speaking of training, how long do you bring? How big is your team? How long do they stay? How many in each school?
All right, so what we do normally is direct training for all of the, what's the best way to say this, non-teacher users. Okay, so your data clerks, your power users in your schools, your assistant principals, your principals, everybody that's using the system daily for non-instructional purposes. We train every one of those individuals in a lab environment. District of your size, normally we would say send us the elementary and send us the secondary. If we can split those two on certain sessions, then elementary scheduling and elementary attendance is done completely different than middle and high attendance and scheduling. So we normally split those two. We quoted you 15 days of training, all of which will be done here. I mean, again, we have 18 folks spread across Georgia, so getting here, not that big of a deal. We put all the training here. It is hands-on training, so you would actually utilize campus. Throughout the training, you would use a training database that wouldn't be your data, but at the end of each individual's training, we grant them access to your data conversion site, which allows us to have them help us confirm that the data we're pulling from PowerSchool looks the way it's supposed to in Infinite Campus.
Right.
Now, for lack of a better term, PowerSchool to Infinite Campus conversion isn't our first rodeo. We've done I think 11 of them now here in Georgia. So we're familiar with the data set, familiar with how to get the data. Been there, done that. We feel pretty confident in that. So we're not that concerned with data review, but still it's important. GPAs, the worst thing that could happen is we bring over a student's transcript data, the GPA calculates differently. So we get down to all those details to make sure that data is exactly the way we need it to be.
So in what you quoted us then, like, so we go through all that, but then we have, let's just say, 20 teachers that need to go back through the training in certain areas. Y'all come back and do that for free, right?
No. So I told you earlier, yes, honest answer though. So remember earlier I told you all of the non-instructional staff. So for the instructional staff, we spend more time training them on how to train the teachers, because from the teacher perspective, we have our training designed to be about an hour and a half long. So ideally it'll fit in a planning period throughout their day. You can call them in during pre-planning or first couple of weeks of school and train them during their planning period, rather than having to pay stipends or keep them late in the day, bring them all into the summer. That's the way we've designed teacher training. Bear in mind, through Campus Community, through the self-paced learning guides, teachers can learn everything they need to through video. Some people do great with that, others require that hands-on, and so it just depends on their learning style, I guess. But no, for the free training.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
I understand.
One of the big things that we like, or my department likes about this program is, we've had some bus accidents, and if there's one or two kids on the bus, that's not a big deal. But if the bus is full and you got 30 or 40 kids, that's a big deal, trying to notify parents. And then if you're reunifying kids at the scene with parents or with relatives that want to send somebody to get their kid, currently we really have no way at the scene to do that. And this, as I understand it, this program will allow us to sub-database kids off of, for each bus, and send a text, email, or voice, or alert now, what we call alert now, I'm sorry, whatever you call yours, but it's a campus message, a message over the phone to all those parents of those children on that bus then. Because that's one thing that we sometimes get gigged about is, when nobody called me to let me know the bus had an issue.
No,
so that would be better.
To tie off of your statements here, Infinite Campus is not a bus routing system. We don't do GIS routing to know which kid's on which bus. We have the ability to interface two transportation systems to populate which bus they're on in the morning, which bus they're on in the afternoon, and from that, we can then communicate. But there's still the other component of, you gotta tell us which buses kids are on.
Right.
We don't automatically produce that information.
But it can pull automatically from Versatran or?
Yeah, we feed data to Versatrans, and we can pull from Versatrans
Okay.
with their willingness to communicate information such as stop time, in-bus, out-bus,
Okay.
all that stuff. We have definitely done that in other locations.
And I know one of the
Would that
things
be-
that, I'm
Would
sorry.
that be something that Tammy could do at your office? That she could periodically
her
check
place.
and make sure that the bus numbers are right and rosters are correct?
Well, my understanding is as long as it's right at the day at the school,
Yep.
it's going to pull in there. So
That-
It's one database.
the data
So
clerks will go out and make
They
sure.
put that information in there now.
We just don't have.
They already track transportation?
I just like to
They
check.
do it
Just like-
manually, they don't do
Say
it
no.
from Versatran.
Right.
No.
But it might be more accurate if it were
Right.
from Versatran.
I mean, you could upload it from Versatran
Yeah.
once a month or something, right?
Well, now bear in mind that the portal component of our system can display lots and lots of information here. So if you guys complete your routing, parents are going to go to portal to look at student grades and attendance and the whole deal. From portal, if we have this information, we can also tell them what bus they're riding, what time that bus comes by, so they're not having to go to a separate system.
Right.
And then if you decide to print student schedules that they pick up, during open house, you can also include bus information on that student schedule that says, here's the bus you'll be riding, so that they're not having to stop in, 9 different places when they're there.
To answer your question, yes, Tammy could do that from her station at the transfer station. So it'd be a one-call, one-stop shop.
I just wondered like when changes are made and that kind of thing. after it's initially put in there. That happens, I know, so.
Well, what I hear him saying is it'd be a matter of a periodic re-download.
There would have to be a sync of the data every now and then.
I know another thing some of the principals asked that day, and being a former one, I know this was sometimes an issue, and parents sometimes complained that grades weren't updated enough. And what was it said, it would send a reminder?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. In Infinite Campus, we have what we call a gradebook usage report that administrators can look at any time and see when the last time teachers have updated their gradebook. And for those that are off of whatever statistic they should be, you have the ability to message with them saying, hey, you need to get some gradebook updates in.
They would do it automatically.
The other thing you find, since Portal is built in, the more and more parents and students that start using the system, parent pressure on a teacher is way worse than principal pressure on a teacher. So
I would think so, yeah.
they will drive using the system from our findings at least. All right, continuing here, just going through some other components to make sure we get through everything we want to show you. Teacher gradebook, there's lots of things we can do in the gradebook. We have a full standards-based gradebook as well as traditional gradebook. So if you guys are delving into standards at any level, be it PK through 12, doesn't matter. You have the ability to track those in campus, and teachers keep a standards-based gradebook. The other thing we can do here is turn on a little bit of stoplight analysis, so teachers can set up their cut scores, and as they're directly entering scores, we can either see it at the score level for how a student's doing, whether they are okay, good, or hey, this one's got a problem, so we immediately see the greens and the reds, down to the average calculations. So as the semester continues, sure, a kid might have failed one grade, but they may have a 96 average. So we can go through and see that. We also have the spark line over here. Spark line is directly related to standards-based grading, but you can see it's basically a student's progress toward the standard. So you can see whether the peaks and the valleys for how they're doing. If we click on any given student, we can also see the box and whisker graphs. Box and whisker shows us the different quartiles, the student's current score, the mean, the median, the min, and the max. So we can go through and see how the student is doing. A common complaint we had in the past was, hey, I have a parent-teacher conference and I need to show the parent the grade book, but I can't without showing all the other students. We can click Hide Others and see this student's exact data, but still display the box and whisker to show us the comparison with other students without the fear of showing any FERPA-controlled information about another child to another parent. All right. Other things, when a teacher gets ready to post grades, they finish their grade book. Whomever at the school controls the grading window, opens the grading window. We then click Post. It asks me where I want to post to. Click OK. I have now submitted my grades for report cards without having to do anything else. So again, where I'm working in the grade book daily to put in my daily grades to communicate with parents is the same place that I post grades from. It would be the same place that I score the teaks and leaks from. If you wanted to go through and score a task, you have the ability to do so here. We can go through and see all these scores, enter any report comments that we need to directly from here. Again, we can set it to show student pictures. From the teacher's perspective, when we're doing attendance, we also have the ability to do seating charts. Seating charts can include the photos. You'll notice here there are 2 classes taught by the same teacher in the same period. It is one attendance roster, but it allows us to do 2 grade books in case there is any type of differentiated instruction. All the kids sitting in front of me don't have to be on the same grading scheme per se. All we're asking the teachers to tell us, present, absent, tardy, and it automatically at the top tallies for us the number of each. When I then go to my grade book to enter scores, if I have flagged a student as absent, it shows next to the date of that assignment that the student was absent on the day it was due. So the teacher can then determine whether they're going to allow it to turn in late, or maybe the kid didn't come to school because that research paper was due. Well, it happens. Other things about the assignment tool in campus, as teachers are creating their assignments, they have the ability to directly link them to multiple classes to prevent the redundancy of entry for the same assignment multiple times. We also have the ability to enter the information that we're communicating with parents directly from here. Description, objectives, references. If you have any type of resources like class syllabus, we have the ability to attach those directly so that through portal, parents can access these documents without having to send a note, hey, Johnny lost his whatever, can you send me another one? They can go here. We also have the ability to enable student submission, so students can go online and send in their research papers electronically, or teachers can set it up so that they can ask them to respond to a quiz electronically. We also have the online assessment tool. You know, we talked about TEKS and SLOs earlier. If you built your SLOs through the online assessment, you could sit your students down in a lab or ask them to do it through portal, and they could complete the SLOs electronically. Any type of assessment that you would like to track electronically, you can enable, and students can then complete that assessment, again, in the lab, online, on their iPhone. I don't know if you guys are into the bring your own device, bring your own technology push yet, but if you are, this is a huge component of that. Trying to enable the stakeholder collaboration there just by, you know, encouraging the kids to do things electronically. All right, once we get off of these sections, again, from the teacher's perspective, we have the ability to get to whichever modules the user security is set for, behavior referral tool, assessment, we have that online assessment tool, lots of reports. If at any point in time, teachers are curious how often parents are using portal, both parents or both teachers and administrators have the ability to run a report that shows for us in our classroom, do the students have an account, do the parents have an account, when's the last time they logged in, and how many times have they logged in over the last 5 weeks. So if teachers are putting a lot of effort into portal and just not getting parent involvement, or from an administrative perspective, if a teacher's not putting in the effort, but you can see that the parents are trying their best to communicate or to participate, you can go, you have grounds to stand over the teacher to say, look, your parents are involved. We need to feed them all the information we can. Last thing I want to show you here is our parent portal component. Parent portal, when we log in, one login grants us access to all of the students that we have access to. That could be other students in our household, students that we're an emergency contact for. We have some districts that set up a juvenile court judge and the entire juvenile caseload get added. So one login to portal, they have real-time access to every student's information. Social workers could be the same way. Up at the top, here we see a list of the kids. We can click any kid, that same photo we saw earlier. We then have the student's calendar, which shows us any attendance transactions, any assignments. By clicking on the assignment direct from the calendar, I can go in and look at the information. If online assessment was set up, we can complete it from here. If we go to the student's schedule, it's going to look remarkably similar to what we saw earlier. Remember, I told you about the teacher newsletters. Parents have the ability to email teachers direct from here. If we click on the class, that should look very familiar to what we saw from the administrative view earlier. Again, mom calls in complaining about Carly's grades, administrator pulls it up, teacher pulls it up. It's the exact same view we're all looking at together. Other things, attendance. See a nice breakdown of the attendance, so there's no reason to question attendance. Assessment, if we show assessments on portal, we can make parents privy to CRCT, EOCT, SLO scores, whatever you wanted to show. Graduation planner, campus does have a full academic planner where we can set up a kid's 4-year plan. Parents, counselors, students can be involved in their progress toward graduation. Transportation, as we mentioned earlier, this is where I can go to see what bus number I'm on, what time it comes by the house. Fees, you can track any and all fees for students, anywhere from library fees to lunch fees to graduation fees. If you enable our online payment system, you can accept electronic payments where you can go through and parents can log into the portal and make electronic credit card payments of all the fees if they wanted to.
That's an extra fee.
Is it an extra charge for the parent when they use a credit card to do that?
It's a one-time fee to the district to set it up, $150 setup fee. the credit card companies charge the processing fee, which gets passed to you. So it's, what is it, 3.95% or whatever the
Right,
fee
but
is.
now the online, like the lunch thing, every time you go in, they charge you a
Charges the
$5 fee or something.
Right, so-
$4.35.
And that's up to the district. We allow you to charge what we call a convenience fee. The ideal scenario is to cover your credit card processing fees. Now granted, the return check fees and everything that you deal with now, those could significantly decrease, but you can go through and determine what's the right amount. Obviously, on a $10 transaction, you might make money, but on a $100 transaction, you might lose a little bit of money. You just got to decide what and you said $4.35. I mean, I've seen them as low as $2 and as high as $7 across our district. It just depends. Other things we can do through portal, if you open up course registration, it's almost February, it's about time to start working on next year's schedules. We've got to get the students' requests somehow. You can open up this to allow students to request courses, so let's just look for, driver's ed again. So we can go through and lock in the courses that we know that they're going to need, but then allow them to go through and make requests for whatever other courses, be it connections, exploratories, whatever you guys call them, or alternate courses. They can do that electronically through portal. Other things you can do if you wanted to would be to open up what we call a portal request processor, where parents, students, whomever you grant access can go through and request changes to their demographic info. So if they do move, obviously you have multiple schools, obviously you're going to require proof of residency. They could request it, it loads to a holding queue on our side, so the parent has keyed in the information, somebody's got to approve it, get the proof of residency and process it, but they don't have to go through and actually type in the address if you don't want to. The other thing regarding the messenger, parents can control their messenger preferences for, hey, if there's an attendance notification, leave me a message on the voicemail at home because I know I dropped him off 10 minutes late. But if there's a bus emergency, I want you to call my cell phone and any other phone you can find. Teachers can, or parents can set up those preferences from there. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a difference in accounts for students to look or view their grades and parent accounts who are rather administrators of their?
Yeah, so there's two differences. One, on the student account, they can submit work. From the parent account, we don't allow them to submit a work for a student for valid reasons. The other thing, on the student accounts, they can only see him or herself. They cannot see any siblings information. From a family account or parent account, we have a drop list to choose which student we wish to look at. A student account, they're in their account, and that's it.
We don't have that right now, we just have the one.
Right.
And students who have gone in and disabled the emails that go to their parents, so their parents wouldn't see they're failing this class, and so forth.
Good try, but no.
Just for the record, that wasn't our kid. Could have been yours.
Could be at any given time.
Brock, I have one question. Are all those kids yours? What's this one?
These two are.
Oh,
That's my sister, and that's two others that we set up for. Those are Alicia's two kids, so we set them up for demo purposes.
okay.
Yeah. That's my mean sister.
So in terms of the parent portal, how different does it look for you in terms of Power Schools parent portal?
It's a lot more user friendly.
Does it?
And then I think Elisa sees both sides, don't you? Both teacher side and.
Yeah, and one thing about that, if you are a teacher parent, you have the ability to have one account, so you don't have to have two accounts. It depends on whether you access portal or you access the admin URL as to which one you get. So again, you wouldn't have to memorize two account informations just to see your child's portal info and to enter your grade levels. What I miss?
I just asked, how do you prevent a parent from getting the student portals to work?
I mean, you've got those helicopter parents that are gonna know everything about the kids. There's no way to prevent that. But one thing that we can do is down here on the,
Doing it and the kid walking it to school.
Yeah.
That's true.
mean, parents and student accounts are different. They set up all their info. So, you know, parents have the ability to control their own passwords and their own logins. But I mean, there's no way to prevent them from logging in as a student.
So the only other add-on module is the message.
There's the messenger system, there's the food service point of sale system, and there's the online registration system. Food service point of sale, again, it's optional because many districts already have something in place, so we don't put it as a part of the base product. The free reduced application management though, that you have to do every fall, is part of the base product. The messenger component, again, email messenger is built into the base product. Phone and text communication is the add-on. And then online registration is an add-on that will allow parents to go to your website, click a link, complete the registration packet that they might stop by and pick up and fill out with a pen, complete it electronically, which goes to the registration center, where they can then go through and process everything electronically with no rekeying necessary.
And they could send that to both schools that two separate kids go to.
Well, if the online reg system is done, it would be the first school they go to. Once that information is processed, it's all in campus. All the second school has to do is enroll the student.
Right.
Actually give them a
I think
schedule.
he's saying.
I'm talking
two
about
kids,
the
two separate.
15 times I'll write my name and address
Oh, yeah.
on the
You
form.
can do it one time.
Before school every year.
You can do it one time.
Right.
Yep.
The food service portal, does that connect, does that interface with E-rate?
The free and reduced forms that you're talking about, yes, that's what they could do.
Well, yeah, your free reduced, the result of those directly drives E-rate, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes.
If the district is interested in going with this,
Yes, ma'am.
and I know that scheduling is a big issue, when would we have to let you know now, or?
We would need to get started by the end of February to have you live by, to allow for the scheduling aspects and to have the system up and running by just after the 4th of July. You know, obviously we have student record sign off, which is posted as June 15th. Extend that by 10 days, June 25th. That's normally when we say the legacy system is no longer used. Once you sign off on your student data record data, all that's done. We then take the data to convert it to campus, where you would then be live shortly after the 4th of July. And then it would be the system of record at that point. But scheduling could be done in the spring prior to it becoming the system of record, and then we could convert that in live.
So that would hold true for the high school
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well?
Yeah.
I
And
know they have
the
a
middle
lot of
school was the
scheduling.
biggie in our November presentation. The middle school was the one that was struggling the most. But high school, middle school, elementary, all levels, it doesn't matter. It would hold true to any of those.
I didn't know, 'cause we put it on the agenda because, under action, because, I really didn't know what the schedule would be.
Yeah, we would have to, third week of February, considering March a dead month because of FTE, third week of February, we would have to be rolling, and that's contract signed, PO in hand, the whole deal. So, I mean, I understand that there's a little bit of time necessary to complete all that process, but that's kind of the time frame we would be to guarantee go live for start of the 14-15 school year.
Is there anything else you?
No, ma'am, just questions, if you guys have any questions?
I know y'all are interested in cost. What is the system cost, how does it compare with our current system? And I know that this is an infinite system, and that several things are combined in this.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess my pitch on that would be, I'm not certain what you guys currently pay for Power School. I have presented a quote. One of the things that we discussed with Ms. Sherry and others is we will work with you on understanding the time of year. It hasn't been budgeted for this year. We can definitely work with you to push the majority of the payment to next fiscal so that you don't have a dual Power School and infinite campus payment, we can work with you on a payment plan that way. You know, the biggest things, you mentioned earlier, SIMs and things like that. Just consider all the different silos that you have now and all the different disparate systems that you pay for and what you could consolidate. So while you may compare Power School and Infinite Campus quotes and say, hey, they're, you know, different, just make sure you're comparing apples to apples of what everything that you can do in Canvas versus everything that you use for those systems now.
And I think Mrs. Smith has done that for us. Let me ask you, I'm hoping that we might be able to save a position, you know, having to fill a position here. If we have the data clerks in each one of the schools managing this, is there the need for a person at the district office or at the district level to also be a manager of this program?
Of the program, no. Of state reporting, yes. I mean, state reporting, you know, obviously that's not something that I would ever encourage you. You're going to have somebody who's responsible for items such as user security. I would not encourage you to allow user security to be controlled at the school level. And there are going to be other setups like special ed documents, like the PLP that you referred to. You know, you're going to have somebody that centrally controls them. If you allow your schools to set their own rules, for lack of better wording, garbage in's garbage out.
Right.
You have to have central control over it and central at least monitoring for consistent use of the product. So my concern, you know, be it you guys aren't a giant system, but you're still in the, you know, medium size, even though you only have, you know, less than 10 schools, if you allow each school to independently run the system however they so desire, there's no way to do central reporting. And even when Dr. Colvin was talking about, you know, SLO's reporting, if you don't have consistency across the district in how data is entered, there's no way you can do any type of analysis on how your students are doing school to school. You can't compare two elementaries.
And I think, Sherry, help me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, but we're able to do that now with assistance of the central office, is that right? Without having to employ another individual to do it. You're monitoring it now.
I think we'll be fine.
If you have something in place now, I mean, you know, I'm not saying it has to necessarily be an SIS coordinator position, but somebody has to have central oversight of usage of the system, just for consistency. So there has to be somebody responsible. I don't know what the appropriate role is. I mean, in some districts, it varies, from technology directors to SIS coordinators to
We're handling Power School now, and seems to be, you know, working pretty well.
If you're handling Power School now, just from, you know, obviously this is going to be a salesy statement, I don't mean to come across the wrong way. If you're handling Power School now with all the different links you have to do, get SIMS data for October FTE reporting, you name it, you should alleviate some of the responsibility from that individual, at least some of the stress from the individual. Obviously, the functions are going to be the same, but the way it's reported and the true integration of everything, you know, should cut down on your health insurance a little bit.
We won't promise,
We
but
lost
we
our person
believe.
after FTE though, didn't we? Or not?
Yeah.
After FTE, we haven't,
We've gone.
We've had tons of reports to do though.
we have.
Yeah, we've had lots.
Because
Okay, so and we
Because of
managed, okay.
teeth.
I just don't want
We
us
won't
to-
promise.
Right.
We won't make any
Yeah,
promises to the
I
board,
understand.
but, you know,
But we've
we are,
been doing very well with what
we have
we've
been
got.
trying. We have, we saved a salary since, for several months now. So I don't know if we'll, you know, if it will become too burdensome, but I know that we have saved the salary since somewhere around end of October, or somewhere around October, November.
I will say this though, I mean, this is, the amount of information that can be put into this and used by this is way more than Power School.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to also make a comment, just the amount of time that I've spent in Power School, all of the different we call them pages.
Right.
All the different pages that he went to in Power School, you would have to go in, and Lisa, you can probably help me, and John, know Joey can. You would have to put that information in on Carly.
Mhm.
Every time you went to that page, the data clerk has to put that information in.
Right.
15 or 20 pages, they have to
Right.
type that data in every single time on every child. And with this system, you do not. That's very time consuming.
Oh, I know.
Amy, could you talk about the money that we're putting in other programs and how the smart workforce? Did they have this one?
They have the handout, they don't have your
We
notes.
can do street validation, if that's what you're saying, to make sure that we have
The
consistency.
infinite campus cost estimator, if y'all have that, it's broken up into several,
She says we have it.
Yes,
With notes.
you should have it, yes.
no, I have
With
the notes.
No,
I
no.
have the notes. I make my notes.
Oh,
You have to close.
so you can just look at it electronically.
It's broken up into several pieces, and I'm going to kind of address them as they're listed on here. Campus is what we currently call Power School and STEM, or SIM, sorry. I don't use that program, so, but I can tell you how much it costs. Currently, all we're having to do with Power School and SIMS is pay our annual renewal fee. So there is going to be a component of this to get us started, and that's that training portion. And we got in here tonight, and he actually gave me a little better news about some of our staff development money. We'd like to get some of this going in this fiscal year. And we have a certain amount of staff development money the state gives us, and we are required to spend it. So this is something that would qualify. We can break it up according to our Infinite Campus representative in a little better manner than we had talked about earlier. We are comfortable with the amount of money that we would have to generate up front, and that's in that fourth block implementation. Really, probably the only part we'd have to come up with before June 30 is about $15,000. Now, we talked about earlier today, we thought it'd be more like $25,000, so that actually makes it a little more comfortable for this year and gives us time to plan for next year if we choose to do this. We'll go back up to the first block. Campus is what we now have as Power School and SIMS. They currently cost us annual renewal fee of about $30,000, so it is a little bit more for that section. But hold on to that. Second one, Messenger with Voice, which is an add-on. We currently have Blackboard Connect, or what is the other name? Blackboard Connect. We've changed that system a lot. There's a $1,000 setup fee. Anytime you get a new program, you're going to have a little bit of setup. But right now we pay, our annual renewal is $10,125. This would be for a year without setup, $20 more a year. So that's a moot point, because it's going to provide more service than we can currently get out of our system we have online now. The third block, food service point of sale. I talked to Emily Hanlon more than once about this. She's extremely excited about this program. She's using a program right now called Horizon, and the name you may see is called Fastlane. That is an antiquated program that the support for is going away for, I believe, after this year.
She said she was going to have a new program.
She has been concerned about writing an RFP to get a new program in here. She had, in her head, put between $10,000 and $12,000 in her budget because she thought she was going to have to purchase a standalone program. Standalone programs don't always play nice with other systems. So she was thrilled after talking to the Infinite Campus people about what can this do, will it integrate, and this and that. She is extremely happy. Now, she's been paying $4,800 to get less than half of what this program will provide. This program will provide, it will reduce the workload of her people tremendously when it comes to those beginning of the year things, when he's talking about the free and reduced and things like that we have to do every single year. There's an upload and a download, and right now it's not working well. She and Tammy spend a lot of time trying to get that going for all of our students in the system. She said this would make it a lot easier on her staff, and she told me to be sure to tell y'all she would be thrilled to have this, and she absolutely supports this part Now, of the purchase.
she's self-sufficient.
She is self-sufficient, and
Would
she
she pay
said,
this portion
Yes,
of this,
ma'am.
or would we have to supplement her with that?
she said, we talked
She's
about it
comfortable
today.
with this part,
She's good
this
with
much in
this.
her budget.
And even down here under the implementation part, the food service point of sale implementation, 2,500, she's aware of that. It would actually probably wind up being in next fiscal year, but she said it doesn't matter to her if it's in June. She's good
got
to
it.
go with it either
She's
way.
got it, okay.
But she said this actually helps her a tremendous amount, so she was very happy
So
to support.
approximately 14,000 out of this total cost would be in her.
Of the
Well,
startup.
12 to 14,000.
Correct,
12 to 14,000.
correct.
And then special ed would pick up their
Special ed,
portion.
they have expressed their interest in the program because of IEP, SIMS. Special ed doesn't work with 504, but there's some 504 things here. All of that can be done through this program, so Lonnie was in support of it, along with several other staff members that got to see it. So overall, on an annual renewal basis, you're only looking at an increase of about $10,250 for the whole system, other than food service. And she said she would probably have to pay at least this to get into the system. So, but general fund, you're talking about $10,250 for approximately. Different increase, but we could potentially be able to not rehire a position, and it provides a lot friendlier service for our parents.
And it looks like year 2 drops down to 20,000, right?
Pardon?
Year 2, you don't have implementation.
Right,
So you
so,
don't-
so we look, I mean, it goes to about 60,000 versus 86.
Correct.
Okay.
Just a visual here that I didn't show you earlier. All the blue districts are infinite campus districts. Those of you that want to know where Dr. Perry started from, if you're here.
Go to Pickens.
The flooded plains, the mountains.
I reside in Pickens County.
Yeah. All right, so you see your neighboring districts, Calhoun City, Gordon County, Murray, Whitfield, Dalton City, Catoosa, Fannin, Forsyth, Hall, White. Like I said, we have lots more coming on board. We finally broke into this power school sector down here. And then we're working.
There are only 3 aspects. Wow.
And there are only 4 school max, which is down to 1. Chickamauga City is the only lone survivor, if I can play off that movie time. That's us. My office is right there.
And that was October, but you said after,
Yeah, I mean, these, Pulaski, Dooley, Ben Hill, DeKalb, Elbert, let's see who else.
they're switching home.
Yeah, Elbert's the other power school district that's coming over right now. So I think we have 9 in implementation at the moment. I don't remember exactly who all they are. I think so. Anything else from me, Dr. Perry?
I don't. Do y'all have any other questions?
I certainly appreciate your time.
Thank you for
Consideration.
coming. We appreciate it. Short notice and you were able to do that.
Hey, no worries.
What does the board, what do y'all think about
Thank you.
infinite campus?
That's the way it works.
The next item on the agenda is Infinite Campus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You all saw the presentation from Mr. Wilson from K-12 Solutions. I would pretty much just like to ask you if you have any questions. I would like to entertain a motion that we try to get set with training. I know the scheduling of his training is getting pretty tight with his systems.
I'd like to find out how the board
How you
feels
feel about
moving
it.
ahead, and if it's something you want, that you feel comfortable doing. I know that
There's so
we
many
don't
things
have a lot
that we
of
can do,
time.
right. There's so many things that it does, just being here since August and knowing what I knew as a principal. And I wish you could have been here that day. We had that room full of people here with the data, everybody from transport, even Rick got excited. Being here, transportation people and data clerks and food service and special ed people and everybody that was in the room.
they
They were here
actually-
chanting, going, write the, Dr. Perry, write the check, write the check.
They even did a check.
They even made a mock
They
check and
signed a
gave
check For
him.
me to sign.
The key phrase in that whole meeting was, write the check, Dr. Perry.
Yes, that was all they were saying, because, and I told him before he came, that the principals were going to have tough questions. And they had some, and he had solutions that he could show them for every scenario that they had, whether it be scheduling or grading or transportation issues, and there were so many safety things, like the bus situation, and
But the decision was wide open. We were seeking input from that group. And we had lots of representation from a lot of different areas. And I told them,
And I did too.
to have at it, that Howard School is there, Infinite Campus is there. I wanted to hear their thoughts, what they thought was best for this district. And they said, write the check.
And I went to
I'm saying
Forsyth
to the
County
board.
first. That's who I went to first to ask them what they use, because they're, of course, the gurus with technology and school system. And that's who they used. And so they gave me the contacts, and that's who I contacted, so.
I mean, I really liked what I saw, but I mean, we would need to make sure that we're gonna follow through on the training so that we properly utilize all this stuff, because man, that was a ton of stuff.
Lots.
And I mean, I know how our staff is not real,
A lot of that,
Keen on
the normal
change.
person wouldn't use. So most of that, a lot of the data clerks would use,
Right.
and I would use.
but that would mean that somebody's got to be entering the stuff for y'all to use, all the reports and all the great features that has.
The data clerks would use most of those features.
One thing about it is that this was not forced. This was
Mhm.
simply, let's take a look.
Let's just look at
And
it.
When they are involved in the decision, then I think you get wider acceptance of whatever happens. And so I do know that we had great participation at that meeting and a lot of support for moving away from Power School to Infinite Campus. So many of our people put in, they're continuously having to put in
Data.
information, data, and you put it in, they were saying.
You gotta put it in every spring.
Yeah,
Yes.
you put it in one time and then it populates, and so, change is, learning a new program is always difficult, but when you're learning something and it's going to be better for you in the end, I think you welcome that opportunity to participate in it. So I'm presenting on behalf of them, is that, from what I heard, and Amy, help me out.
You were here.
There
There was about 30 people in there, wasn't there?
I think there were more than that, but
Yeah.
I'll chime in with the change.
I invited
because
everybody.
There were a few people that were not
No.
wanting to change. People who have been here a long time, who are happy with Power School, and a couple of them in particular were sitting behind me, so I could hear comments the whole time. And the chant that started in the room, write the check, started with two people, and it was the two people I thought would never go for this. They saw what it could do.
And he did a 3-hour presentation. didn't
And
he?
he's,
I
I mean, they
it
beat
was
him
unbelievable.
to death with questions. I mean, they asked every hard question they could come up with. What do you do with this? Well, what do you do with this? And then another part of the room started going, write the check. By the end, the whole room was going, write the check. So, I mean, it wasn't one school, one location. It was across the board, lots of different folks, lots of different personalities who I never thought would touch a new system. Because it is hard. It is difficult to make a change like this. It's a massive undertaking.
Even Maxie at the high school.
Maxie
Yeah, she was
good.
screaming and yelling.
So it looks like money-wise.
She has to
and
do
what-
it. Huh?
I know she has a lot of work to do.
Oh, my.
I'm sure if I'd still been in the system, I would have been saying write the check too, but sitting on this side, my concern was, before we came here tonight, before I had an opportunity to talk to you earlier, was to be sure that there wasn't a huge difference in the price. But it seems as though that when we add up the modules that we're getting rid of, the price is, what, maybe 10,000 more or something like that, which is not,
It'll be about $10,000.
but it will give us $10,000 worth of things that we didn't have, I think. Another thing, though, that concerns me too, though, is now you have a system worked out where we can, because I know we have to keep Power School till the end of the year. But if we go ahead, he says February, you think we will be all right if we, with the payments that we have to make before then, or is he gonna allow us to be flexible about that? Is that my understanding?
He actually said between now and June 30th, if we start the training as has been discussed.
Okay.
Originally, we thought it would be about $25,000 this year. He went back, looked at it again, and he said, I think we can, if y'all can just do 15 this year.
Okay.
Which actually helped us a
lot.
tremendous amount.
And we'll be comfortable with that.
And he didn't tell us that final number until we got in here after, right before the meeting started, so.
Okay, my other concern would be from the teacher standpoint, because they have had to go through lots and lots of training this year. Would their training have to start this year too, because they're already
They're
swamped?
hammered with the teaks.
They're covered up, and I mean, I know that a lot of this will be data clerk training, which is fine and which is good and all that, and I don't have a problem with that, but I just hate to add, I mean, I don't know when he's starting the training, I don't.
How much of a delay is there between that training and actual usage of the program? Because you don't want to be trained
No, you don't.
4 months and then you did it.
No, exactly.
Until-
And we want to be sure we're not just bombarding our teachers, because we've added a lot of stuff this year. We've
The
added
biggest
bookings.
training is for those people that have to do that scheduling, mostly a lot of middle school, high school, because they have to start their scheduling in the spring for
Which is
next
something
year.
they have to do anyway.
Right, they have to do that anyway.
But
So
that
that's
just
data
involves
clerk
perhaps
people, yes.
counselors or
It's
whatever.
mostly data clerk people
So it's
and it would
not
be
people that are
counselors.
involved in the
Central
teaks and leads.
It would be
and-
me.
Have central office,
It'd be me.
administrators.
Yes, and
But
some
but it's not
administrators.
actual
Wouldn't be the
classroom teachers
teachers.
that we would again have to pull out then.
No.
Okay, then I can be fine with it.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to put, if it's something that he has to teach me and Sandy
Mhm.
perhaps, and we can wait and teach them later, I'm all for you, because I know their plates are running over.
They
Well,
are,
he-
and I
He
just don't
mentioned
want.
being able to train them during planning period, so does
Right.
that mean if we're gonna start using this in the classroom at the first of next year, can that training happen?
Yes,
At the first of
it
next
can.
year when they start to
I'm
use
sure
it?
it can.
During pre-planning or.
Yeah, because they need to.
Well, he said an
They
hour's
need
training for
refreshment.
everybody, that's not excessive, but still, I don't want to add it to somebody's
Well,
plate.
And plus, he said there's online training.
Yeah, exactly.
They can go.
There's
I mean,
videos that they can watch from
Yeah,
the,
they can go in June or July and take a look at it and play with it.
While it was
side note,
We're-
Lisa Galloway sending me
include
pictures of
maintenance.
snowing like crazy, she got to be here tomorrow.
It doesn't have anything for reporting maintenance.
For what?
Maintenance.
Oh.
And I liked what I saw.
The thing that I liked about him is he's knowledgeable about it. I mean, he knows every nook and cranny of that program. And all these people are salesmen don't know the program. They just know how to sell it.
And they're here, Power School's not here. How hard is it to get a hold of Power School,
What?
Joey?
He seems to have a very good grasp of the
absolutely.
issues that pertain to the school.
And
Yeah,
I
he
agree
seems
with
very
Rick, it may
knowledgeable in
save us some
education.
heartaches. God forbid we have a problem with a bus or an accident or whatever, but there are times like this morning, I saw that we had an accident, I mean, that there was an accident, not us, but buses were delayed for over an hour, so, that would have been a good thing at that particular point.
Well, it's not a secure system. It's not a secure system if the kids can get to high school and they know that they can go in and change the settings and mom and daddy doesn't get their grades or their
No,
notifications.
what we have is not secure.
And those are smart kids. I mean, these aren't kids that are just, kids know how to do this.
Did you ever done that?
I was gonna
She
say,
must
this
be
is
talking
common
about you.
practice. So,
I
and
talked
it
about
was,
mine. I think it's a niece.
And he
Not
didn't hit everything that system does.
Right.
He didn't
And we
talk
didn't
about-
need to know all of it.
He
Trust
didn't
me.
talk about some of the special ed things and 504 and the.
And Dr.
food
Dykowski
service.
had used it in Cherokee County and in Dawson County.
She liked
Cherokee
it.
Oh,
County
yes,
matches.
they did when she was there.
Oh, okay, they,
But, and.
See, they went away and that from it and went to Aspen.
Yeah, they were at Aspen now, but they had it when she was there, and yes, she wholeheartedly loves it. She likes it better than,
So I could see that being huge compared to.
yeah, she likes it better than Sims.
Sims is not
Very-
popular with the teachers or the
Very-
special ed
very
population. It's just not. Y'all-
It doesn't seem to be.
It's just not.
Special ed part.
Right.
It's not user-friendly at all. It's not user-friendly. It's hard to use.
And that's what for me, I want the special ed department to create records, and that seems to be more user-friendly to them.
And the another thing about the kid, it had the little, it said food allergy, it said this, it said that.
What is Aspen, the other thing that's on here?
It's just a proprietary, they kind of created it themselves, I mean, it does their own thing. But they
programmed it.
programmed it themselves. Power School has the little icons, and you have to know what they mean. You know, if you're special ed, it has the little yield sign, and it has the binoculars, and it has, so you have to know what those little icons mean. I liked it, it said food allergy, it said parent alert, you know, it says that. So the teachers know what it means. All the teachers don't know the little alert for special ed.
I mean. You sat in the wrong place.
What's Philip causing trouble with?
I'm just trying to.
it's me. I'm sorry.
What kind of things have you heard from people who participated in that? Did you get any feedback from?
Yeah, everybody that's talked to me wants it.
Yep.
Okay, they do? Okay. Because, I mean, that's what we heard, and I haven't heard anything different. So-
I'm not opposed to giving it to them.
I'm not either, I just.
I mean, I'd like to see us use all of it and use it well.
Right.
I'm glad that some of those who were here at least gave you some feedback on what they heard.
Well, if it's your recommendation that we move to Infinite Campus, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve this.
It is my recommendation.
I make a motion we approve Infinite Campus as our new
Student
student information system for 2014-15.
Motion is made by Mrs. Andrews. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Coward. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. 4 of them.
You know, Emily's going to have something.
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
we have no choice with that.
Right.
She's been in
Yeah,
my
hers
office.
is going away.
It's
She's
going-
been in my office 4 or 5 times. It's always Lonnie, because it's time for them to pay their support fees.